sole ambition was to be seen as the perfect mom. And so she decided to create a YouTube channel, and we became 8 passengers.
Thumbs up, subscribe.
Our entire schedule revolved around YouTube. Felt more like a...
Have you watched this new Hulu docuseries, Devil in the Family? It's about a popular family vlogger, Ruby Franke. The series details her child abuse case, but it's also starting a really larger conversation about the troubling reality of parents who post their children on social media. This is known, the practice is known as sharenting. And while most parents don't obviously intend any harm, it's important to understand the consequences of social media exposure and the long-term emotional and psychological risks. So that's why this morning we've asked Megan Crean from Childhelp to join us to talk about some of the dangers and also some of the recommendations. You know, it's just such a wide variety of what parents can do, shouldn't do, is okay to do. And then you've got the kids, of course, which we want to respect their thoughts and their opinions. So thanks for being here, first of all. Let's start this conversation. Talk about some of the risks of this.
Mental health risks. There's risks, tangible risks, like sharing a photo online and getting in the wrong hands and it becoming like a meme that goes viral, you know, and shows the child in an unflattering light. There's also the risk of somebody doing harm, like, you know, if parents are geotagging or sharing locations, school information, that can get in the wrong hands and somebody could physically try to hurt your child.
And you guys at Childhelp, unfortunately, have seen this in real life. It's happening. It's
happening.
Not just happening in a docuseries.
Right.
It's happening in real life.
Right. It is. And so that's why I think parents would need, like you said, it's not, most parents are not being malicious about it. They're trying to show joy and share with family and friends. But I think sometimes parents can tend to maybe live vicariously through their children, and that becomes their identity. And so we have to remember children have their own identity and to respect that and let them have their autonomy.
Which brings us to our next topic. You know, obviously a lot of this varies on a child's age. Talk about some of the guidelines that parents really should consider and look at when it comes to sharing, posting online when it comes to their kids.
Under 7 years old, like extreme caution.
Okay.
You know, don't want to show photos of a child in a bathtub or, you know, in a diaper or any type of undress. And then when they get to be probably...
Which seems like, okay, parents should know that.
No-brainer, but some don't. Like, you know, but also social media is relatively new. Like, this is our first generation that we are sharing our children. You know, my parents weren't, they didn't have to go through that. And so we kind of all are navigating this on our own. And then I think about age 7, 8 to 10, it's time to include them in those conversations, you know, and ask them if this is okay for me to share. And I think that also, that's a great opportunity to show them consent and how we are modeling consent for them.
Okay, and I'm sure by the teenage years, I mean,
a lot of them have their own.
Having teenagers, they do have their own. But it's so important. That's even, I think, more vital that parents have that conversation with their teens of, hey, don't be sharing your location, don't be posting where you're at the moment, having fun with your friends.
Absolutely, and we want our children to respect our privacy. You know, I don't want my child posting unflattering photos of me, you know, and I also want them to respect their friends and ask their friends, is this okay to post? We've all had a friend who's posted. They look great, not us so much. So I think it works, you know, both ways.
Very good, very good. And then last, before we go, how do we balance? How do we find that balance? You know, like you said, and we've been talking about, we don't do it to intend harm, but it can cause that.
Sure. I think, you know, sharing online is never going to be 100% safe. But I think if we take the appropriate measures, like we talked about, you can just limit it to family and friends. You can have conversation with family and friends, extended family, about, you know, your sharing preferences. You can also, schools and organizations should have a social media policy. And if they don't, you can ask them to create one.
All right. Well, thank you for what you guys do at Childhelp. We'll put all the information as well on azfamily.com if you'd like to find out more information and need some services or resources.
Thank you so much.
All right. Be safe, guys. Be safe.